My name is Ida and I'm a co-founder of Softer. And our mission is to make tech more inclusive, approachable and soft. Today I'm going to show you how to build your own computer and hopefully prove that it's not as complicated as it seems. Softer actually began from a shared frustration of trying to build our own rendering PC, and making this tutorial has been on our wish list for many years, so I'm so excited to finally make it happen. So I've been working with 3D rendering for many years, and having a good computer is absolutely essential, and that's actually what motivated me to learn how to build one myself. But I'm no computer expert, so if you have any additional knowledge to share, please drop them in the comments so we can all learn from each other. So why even bother building your own computer? Well, first of all, you get more value for money when you buy the components individually. Also, you can decide exactly how you want your computer to look, and you can customize it according to your needs. And if something breaks or if you want to upgrade later, you don't need to replace the whole machine, you just replace the part you need. I know it can seem very intimidating and scary, but I promise you, once you get started, you'll feel much more tech confident. So who should build their own computer? Well, it's usually gamers who build their own computers, and most of the guides that you find on YouTube are aimed at gamers, but also people working with creative software like graphic design, motion design, 3D, and also people working with science, mathematics can really benefit from building their own computer. In this video, we are building something a little different, a wall-mounted computer. You might not have seen one before, and that's part of what makes this build so exciting, but don't worry, I'll explain everything soon. The computer we are building today is designed for creatives in mind. It's perfect for 3D artists, video editors, graphic designers, motion designers and so on, but it can also handle some gaming if you're into that. So what exactly will we be doing? You can think of it as Lego. We're not soldering anything, we're not melting any metal, and if all goes well, there will not be any sparks involved. We are simply just putting together pre-made components in the right order to create a fully functioning PC, and here's what we'll be going through. First, we'll cover what a computer actually is and go over the main components that make it work. Next, I'll show you how to select your parts and make sure that they all fit together, because not everything works with everything else. Then we'll get hands-on and build the machine step by step, and I'll walk you through every part of the process. Once it's built, we'll test it, and if it doesn't turn on, don't panic. I'll share some common troubleshooting tips at the end of the video to help you figure it out. Finally, we'll install Windows and the drivers you need to get your computer ready for action. And drivers are actually just software programs that allow your computer's operating system to communicate with and control the hardware on the computer. Let's look into what a computer is made of. What is a computer? A computer is basically just a machine that can store and process information. It takes input, does something with it, and gives you output, whether that's rendering a 3D animation or opening your Sims game. Before digital computers existed, computers were actually people, very often women, who manually performed complex mathematical calculations. If you want to learn more about the history, we added some links in the description. Before we dive into the build, let's walk through the main components of a modern digital computer. I'll use the terms parts and components interchangeably, they mean the same thing. And if you just want to get building right away, skip a few chapters ahead. The case is the house of the computer, but it doesn't do any actual computing itself. But it holds everything in place and keeps the system cool with good airflow. Because computer parts generate a lot of heat when running, so having airflow in the case is very important. Luckily, the wall-mounted case we are using is doing most of the work for us. But if you are building a normal computer in a box, you'll need to look into airflow. Cases come in different shapes, sizes and styles. Most are black or white metal boxes, and many have tempered glass sides so you can peek in and admire your components doing their thing. We are using a stunning wall-mounted case called Frostbite by CSFG. Wall-mounted just means that the computer hangs on the wall instead of standing on the ground or on your desk. It has a very sleek, minimalist design with a clear glass cover. Not only does it look amazing, it also makes the whole build super visible, which is great for teaching and learning. So, this is the motherboard, and every computer actually has a motherboard. The motherboard is like the spine or the nervous system of the computer because it connects all the components so they can communicate with each other. And don't get intimidated by the very techy look of the motherboard. It's actually not too complicated to understand where all the components are supposed to go when you learn a little bit more. And there are different sizes and versions of motherboards. They are called ATX, Mini ITX, Micro ATX. There's a lot of them, I don't even remember all the names. But for this build, we're using the Mini ITX, which is compact but powerful. This is the CPU. The CPU is like the brain of the computer. It processes instructions, makes decisions, and performs calculations. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit and is also sometimes called the processor. And CPUs generate a lot of heat when working, and that's why we really need to keep them cool. The most common ones are air coolers, which use fans to blow hot air away. There are also liquid coolers. They are called AIOs, all-in-one coolers, which circulate liquid through a radiator to carry heat away more efficiently. In this build, we're using a liquid cooler. We see it right here. We have the radiator, we have the pump, and then we have the fans. This is the RAM. The RAM is your computer's short-term memory. It temporarily holds the data your CPU needs right now. The more RAM you have, the better your computer can multitask. And most builds actually use 2 stacks of RAM, which improves speeds by increasing the memory bandwidth. And the RAM is temporary, meaning that it will wipe clean every time you turn off your computer. This is the SSD or solid-state drive. It's the computer's long-term memory. It stores all the files, programs, and even the operating system. This is the PSU or power supply unit. It's the computer's power source. It takes electricity from your wall and converts it into power for each component. It comes with a whole bunch of cables, more than you likely need, but don't worry, I'll walk you through exactly which ones you need when we are doing the build. Here it is. Last, but definitely not least, we have the GPU, or graphics card. This is the visual engine of the computer. It's responsible for rendering the images, animations, and visual effects you see on your screen. GPUs are essential for tasks like 3D rendering, video editing, and gaming, which is why creatives and gamers alike are kind of obsessed with them. GPUs are also essential for training AI models, which makes them even more popular at the moment, and there's a lot of development happening right now. And GPUs comes in many shapes and sizes and price points, and choosing the right one depends on what you plan to do with your computer and of course your budget. It's very easy to mix up GPU and CPU. It sounds basically the same, but just remember that the G stands for graphics. Okay, so here you have them all, and now that you know what each part does, let's move on and choose the right components for your build. And maybe some of you noticed that there are a few things that I didn't mention, but don't worry, I'll get into that later. It's specific for our build and it's not for all computers. And if you already picked your parts and just want to get building, just jump to the next section. Picking the right computer parts can feel overwhelming, especially if you're new to this. But honestly, it also feels a bit overwhelming even when you're not new to it anymore. There are so many options out there and not all components are compatible with each other. So where do you even start? So here's my go-to advice when learning something new and technical. Wear blinkers. You know, those little eye shields that horses wear so they don't get frightened. Focus only on what you need to know right now and leave the rest for later. Choosing the right parts and making up your mind can be difficult with so many options available. But remember that you can change and replace the components afterwards if you need some more power or if your computer needs change. I always use this website to check if my parts fit together. It's called pcpartpicker.com. It's a free website where you can browse and select components, and it will automatically check for compatibility, so you don't accidentally choose parts that don't work together. Some people like to start with the case, others with the GPU. It really depends on your preferences. But because we are building in the Frostbite wall-mounted case, we already have some specific limitations we need to follow. The sad news is that the Frostbite case is a little bit niche and therefore not on PC Part Picker yet, which means we'll have to do a bit of manual research. But the good news is we can still use it to check if the rest of our chosen components will work together. The Frostbite case is relatively small. It's a so-called mini ITX case, so we'll need to follow some specifications to get the right parts. The CSFG website lists the required specs for each component, which may look like total nonsense at first, but it's actually just there to make sure you don't buy components that won't fit. So let's walk through them together. The Frostbite only supports mini ITX or MITX motherboards, which is a smaller version of a regular motherboard. We're going for this X870i Aorus Pro Ice motherboard from Gigabyte. It's super cute and iridescent. Let's add it to our PC part picker list. The CPU or processor must match the motherboard socket type, which is the hollow part where the processor goes. In this case it's called an AM5. We got the AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D CPU. Let's add it to our PC part picker list. The Frostbite supports both 250mm and 360mm liquid coolers. We're going for the 360mm one because it looks nice and it fills the space. we went for the next Water Kraken 360 RGB, I'm adding it to the list. Like the CPU, the RAM goes directly on the motherboard and therefore they need to be compatible with each other. Our motherboard uses DDR5 RAM, so we need to stick with that format, and we got the Corsair Vengeance RGB DDR5 6032GB, adding it to the list too. The motherboard supports what they call the M2 NVMe SSD, so we'll be using the Samsung 990 Pro SSD 2TB, adding it to the PC part picker list. The Frostbite case requires a compact power supply unit. It has to be what's called an SFX or SFXL. We got the Asus ROG Loki SFXL 850 watt. It's silver and matches the motherboard colors. I'm adding it to the list. We also need to consider the length of the GPU or graphics card. The Frostbite supports up to 400mm, so we have to make sure that our card is shorter than that. We also need to note that our motherboard only supports one GPU, where others support 2 or up to 4. We got the Gigabyte GeForce RTX 5060 Ti. It's around 280mm, so it will fit. I'm adding it to PC Part Picker. Let's check our build on PC Part Picker, and yoo-hoo! It's all compatible. But we're not completely done yet. Because of the special Frostbite layout, we need a couple of extras. We need some longer mounting screws for the AIO cooler. The ones that comes with the cooler are too short for this case. I've learned it the hard way, so you don't have to. We're gonna need some of the 632 1/4-inch long stand-up screws. I'm gonna add them in the description. We also need a riser cable for the GPU or graphics card. Normally the graphics card plugs directly into the motherboard, but here we want it positioned more visibly to suit the layout and also to allow for better airflow. The Frostbite case recommends a 250mm riser cable. We're using a 300mm one because it was the prettiest one I could find. It works well, just don't go shorter than 250 or it won't reach. That's it, we're ready to get building. Now we're finally ready for the fun part, assembling all the components and turning them into a functional and aesthetically pleasing computer. But first, a few practical things. Make sure you have a nice big surface to work on. You're going to need some space to move around. And I also recommend having some sort of soft surface so you don't scratch any of the components or your table, like a tablecloth or a desk mat like we're using. Some computer parts are more delicate than others. I'll let you know where to be extra careful and where it's okay to use a bit of force. And you're also going to need a screwdriver. A medium-sized crosshead one should work fine, but if you have a few different sizes available, you're really home safe. One note is that there are many types of cases and components out there, so yours may look a bit different. So always follow your specific manuals when assembling a computer. Let's get started. The first thing to do is to assemble the case. The Frostbite case comes with everything you need, including the necessary Allen keys and screws and a very clear manual. I recommend keeping very good track of the different screws and making sure you remember which one is which. That's why I put mine in little boxes with little labels. The case has a place for every component, so you don't need to decide where anything goes, just follow the manual. I'm just going to follow this manual and put it together. It's basically like IKEA. I'm going to leave a few things off for the end. We'll install those after installing the components. It's the PSU lid, the glass cover and the sides. So now we're done with the case, and here's where each component will go. The motherboard is going to go here, with the processor or CPU, and the RAM and the SSD. The power supply unit is going to go here. The liquid cooler, radiator and fans are going to go here, and the pump will connect to the motherboard. The graphics card is going to go here, and this is the power button. We'll connect to the motherboard later, so it will actually work. The motherboard is the heart of the system, so we'll start here. You're going to need 3 of the M3 5mm screws and 1 longer screw that comes with the motherboard. I'm going to grab the motherboard and place it right here. It fits exactly on these little spaces that I just installed in the cabinet before. So the longer screw goes into this part where there's a little bit more depth, and then it's about not over tightening the screws and doing it little by little. And this is actually the first time that I'm doing something like this while I'm being filmed. So I'm realizing that you maybe need to practice it a little bit. I'm going to use the screwdriver for these screws. Do-do-do-do-do. The first time I built a computer, I was super scared of breaking stuff. And then my friend who helped me just told me, as long as you don't drop the screwdriver on the motherboard, everything's gonna be fine. And then 2 seconds later, I dropped the screwdriver on the motherboard. And actually everything was still fine. So now I've screwed in the screws loosely, and then I'm gonna go diagonally, tightening them not too much, just enough to make sure we don't create too much tension. Dip. And done. It's time to install the CPU or processor. It's a sensitive little chip, so we have to be a little bit careful. It's this one. So first we release this little lever. Then we open this lid, and then we grab the CPU. And then you need to note that there's a little triangle on the corner of the CPU, and there's also a little triangle on the corner on this socket. And the socket is just like the hole where the CPU goes. So I'm gonna very gently, only touching the sides to not touch the pins underneath, let it go into the socket. Just feel a little bit that it's placed correctly, it feels good. Then I'm going to close this lid, put the leather back on, and as you can see, this little cover just popped off, and that's normal, it's supposed to go off, we don't need it anymore. But it's good to save it if you ever want to transport your motherboard again without the CPU. Let's install the SSD, or the solid state drive. The solid state drive goes here. This is what we call a heat sink. It's to protect it from high temperatures. I'm gonna open this little hatch, you just rotate it, and now it's open. And you can actually take it off like this. It's still attached with a cable. It has some protective film on that we're gonna remove. You can see that there's like a little gap between the pins here, and then you should match them with the SSD. There's like a little gap here as well. So you actually just slide it in here, like this. Press it down, take the heatsink, slide it back on. All good. Let's install the RAM, or the temporary memory of the computer. First, we open the RAM slots. It's these two right here. Click them open. For some reason on this motherboard you have to install it in this slot first, the one closest to the center. It varies from different motherboard models, so just check your manual before installing your RAM. I'm just gonna grab the first one. There's this little gap between here that you need to match to see which way it goes. Let's see. And here you have to use a little bit of force, so when you're sure that it's actually in the right place, you just push down until you hear click on both sides. The same with the next one. Click, click, and done. Let's install the liquid cooler, or AIO. So, there are different types of screws for different types of CPUs. And we will use the ones that are needed for the AM5 socket, because we have an AMD processor with an AM5 socket. So I just followed the instructions from the manual and chose what we need to use right now. We need these little thumb nuts, we need these little spacers, and we need these little stand-up screws, and then this bracket. But first we need to remove this little bracket that is already installed on the motherboard. So I'm going to start with that. Good. Okay. Now it's time to install these little plastic sleeves. And they have like a textured side up that is for the AM5 socket, so I'm going to put them this way on these little holes. And then I'm going to take these stand-up screws and have the short side up and screw them in. done. Now we have to replace the pump bracket with the AMD one. There's a default one and we cannot use it, so we have to take it off. I'm going to start with removing this protective plastic. Too weird. Okay, so there's this pre-applied thermal paste that we shouldn't touch. I think it's probably very toxic, but it's just there to keep the CPU cold. So we need to take this bracket off, and we do that by pushing it inwards, rotating it counterclockwise, and releasing. Now I'm going to install the AMD bracket. Done. It's time to install the pump. This is going to be a little bit awkward because it's a little bit fiddly with the pipes. We're going to try to make it work. So we want the pipe to go this way. So I'm going to try and place it on the standoff screws like this. And then you take the thumb nuts, and again we go diagonally. And we make sure not to over tighten. Great, I'm just gonna tighten the last ones a little bit more to make sure that it's firmly seated. And done. Now let's attach the fans to the radiator using the long screws that came with the cooler. We would like to keep these cables on this side so that we're able to hide them later. And done! The fans are now attached to the radiator. The liquid cooler comes with 3 cables. The first one is the most important one. It's the breakout cable, and it gives power and connection to the motherboard and the pump and to the fans. The second and the third cable are actually optional. They're just there to give light to the fans, as you see behind me. You don't need to install them unless you want to have lights in the fans. So I'm going to start with the breakout cable. So it has lots of bits here, so we just need to fold it out so we can see what we're doing. So this little special cable that looks different from the rest of them, it actually fits right here into the pump. I'm going to start with attaching it. Click, and done. This little cable that has like 3 little holes, it goes into this part of the motherboard where there's 4 pins. Don't worry, it doesn't look like it's actually going to go, but it will fit. Let's have a look at the rest of the cables. This cable is what you call a USB 2 connector. And because we're both gonna connect this controller and we wanna connect the pump, and this is what's gonna give light in the fans and a little animation actually on this little pump screen, then we're gonna need this USB 2 splitter cable that will enable us to plug 2 USB 2 cables into the motherboard. We only have 1 entrance. So I'm going to connect this USB 2 splitter. And it goes right here. There's like 9 pins and 1 corner is blank, so you just need to match it. like this. And now we have attached the splitter. And it's all about like trying to arrange your cables in a nice way. And sometimes you cannot just do it in the first go. You have to like attach them first and then see where they're all going to be in the end, and then you can arrange them with strips. So it might look a little bit messy, but don't worry, we'll take care of it later. I'm going to try and see if I can get it underneath. And again, when you're doing cables, it's nice to have a friend, but I think I will just see if I can do it myself, and otherwise I know who to call. Let's actually put these behind. This is the USB 2 connector from the pump. I'm going to connect it to the splitter, like this. Great. So now we have 4 cables left. 3 of them are going to connect power to the fans, and this one is going to give power to the pump. This one we're going to plug in later when we install the power supply unit. These ones we're going to plug in now. So I'm just going to arrange them to go on the back with the rest of the fan cables. So each fan has 2 cables. One is for the power for the fan, and one is for the RGB light. This here is going to give power to the fans. So we need to match one cable from each fan with this one. And it's a little bit hard to see because it looks very similar, but you can see that there's one of them that doesn't have a little thingy on them and one that just has this little slide-in thing. So they will actually fit together like this. And another one. And one is missing. Whoop. And the last one. Now I'm going to install the controller so we can get some lights in the fans. The controller has 2 cables. It has the USB 2 cable and it has a SATA cable that is for power. It also has 3 entrances for each of the 3 fans. I'm going to attach the USB 2 cable into the splitter. Then I'm going to take one of each of the RGB cables from each fan and put into the controller. And tech bros care a lot about cable management, so I think I just have to arrange it a little bit to make sure that no one's gonna hate me. Let's give the system some power. You're going to need the PSU, power supply unit, this box, and then you're going to need 5 cables. You're also going to need 4 screws, and it is the 6 32 U and C screws, and there's a little Allen key that comes with them. So we're going to start with installing this box, and you need to make sure that the opening for all the cables are going to be in the top so you have access. We're going to slide it into this holder. And now comes the very fun part. You need to screw these 4 screws to attach it, and it's a little bit difficult, so don't get too frustrated if it doesn't work. It has to work, but like if it doesn't work in the first try. Let's install the motherboard power cable. It's a little bit difficult to get through because the space is super tight, but we're going to make it work. So this bit is the one that goes into the PSU. It's easier to go from the front and then take it out to the back. I'm just going to get the computer up. Here we go. All right. Let's get it down so you can see what I'm doing. So, this big cable is the one that plugs directly into the motherboard, and it's pretty easy to guess where it goes because it's the only port that is this big on the motherboard. So, let's align it. Let's make sure we face it the right way. There's only one way it can go, like this. And did you hear the click? It's clicked on. Now it's time to get this cable all the way around and through here. Let's get it down again so you can see. And on the PSU, you see there is a place labeled MB. It's because it stands for motherboard. Click and click. The next cable we're going to install is the CPU cable. It's labeled CPU on one side and PSU on the other side. This cable is going to give power to the CPU. There's a little power entrance on the motherboard. It's normally very close to the CPU, and there's only one option, it's this one. Make sure you take the end that is labeled CPU. Click. Let's arrange it behind the motherboard. This part is the exercise part where you have to lift your computer a lot of times. Here we go. And now we need to connect it to the power supply unit. On the power supply unit, there's a little part where it says CPU/PCIe. That's where this cable will go. And we heard the click. All done. Okay. The next cables we're gonna attach are these two. Not these two. These two. And they're called SATA cables. And they are also power cables. And they are going to give power to the pump and to the fan controller. So let's get it up. So you probably remember from before that we have two of these SATA cables. One is from the pump and one is from the controller. And we're just going to attach them to these SATA cables and then to the power supply. So let's connect the SATA cables to the PSU. Again, we have a little label where it says SATA on the PSU. We're going to use them. Click. And another click. And there's a lot of entrances on this cable. We're just going to use one of them. I don't think it matters. It can only go in one way, like this. And the other one. Sometimes you need to use a bit of force. And it's done. Now we only have one cable left, and this is for the graphics card, but we haven't installed that yet. Well, we're just gonna install it in the PSU, and then we have it ready for when we're done. So one end is labeled PSU, and the other end is actually labeled PCIe. That's the power cable that a GPU needs. And just connect it to a PCIe entrance on the PSU. Click. Okay, we save this for later. It's time to add the graphics card. We're gonna need the graphics card, the riser cable, 4 of the M3 5mm screws and a screwdriver. First, I'm going to take the graphics card. And at this point, it's actually really nice to have a friend to help you because you would like someone to hold the card while you screw it in. So what you're going to do is that you're going to align these little bits on the holder and have your friend hold the card while you screw in the screws. Here we go. Now the card is attached with 2 screws, and also it's attached to this little holder that we installed in the case before. Great, let's attach the riser cable. The riser cable has 2 ends. One of them is going to go into the motherboard, the other one into the graphics card. The one end that goes into the motherboard has a little protective plastic that we're going to take off. Now it's time to align this little space on the cable with the space on the little thing on the motherboard where the graphic card goes. Make sure you open this little hatch and click it in. Check that the thing is closed again, it is. Now we need to maneuver it underneath the card, like this. Here we go. There's also a little protective thing on the graphics card that we need to remove. And then you just open this little thingy and hold on to the card while you do this. Click, it's attached. Great. The last thing we need to do, and this is a little bit difficult, we need to attach the power cable, but it's a little bit short, so we're also going to need to do a little bit of maneuvering. And as you remember before, we saved the power cable that we need for the graphics card. And again, now I really recommend ask a friend to hold the card while you install it. Okay, so the power cable for the graphics card is actually a 6-pin and a 2-pin that you need to merge together. And it's a little bit difficult to make them fit exactly into this little port. And it can seem impossible, but I know that it's possible because I have done it before. Click, it's attached. The graphics card is now installed. And that's it, we built a PC. And here's what we did. First we assembled the case. Then we installed the motherboard, we installed the CPU, we installed the SSD and the RAM. We also set up the liquid cooler, we installed the power supply unit and all the cables, and we also mounted the GPU. Now it's time for the fun and also a little bit scary part to see if it will actually turn on. Now we've assembled our PC and it's time for the moment of truth. Will it turn on? But before we press the power button, here's what you'll need. You'll need a monitor, you'll need a DisplayPort cable or HDMI cable. You're gonna need either a wired mouse and keyboard or ones with USB connectors, no Bluetooth. We don't have that yet. And you're also gonna need the power cable that came with the power supply unit. Let's connect the power supply cable. It goes into the box. Connected to an outlet in your wall. The next thing we're going to do is to connect the monitor, and always connect your monitor directly to the graphics card. And it can both be with an HDMI cable or DisplayPort cable, it doesn't really matter. Usually you have a few DisplayPort entrances and one HDMI. This is a DisplayPort cable, I'm going to plug it in. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in these USB connectors for the keyboard and the mouse. They're going to go directly into the motherboard. Just find a USB entrance. Always remember to plug on the power supply unit first. It has to go to the little 1 and not to the 0. And now to the moment of truth, I'm gonna click the power button. Woo! Okay, something works. If everything goes well, your monitor should show this screen, the BIOS. BIOS stands for Basic Input-Output System. This is the default firmware interface for the motherboard. It appears when no operating system like Windows or Linux is installed yet. If you see the BIOS screen, success, your PC is alive. Now that your system powers on, it's time to install Windows, or your preferred operating system. We'll cover that in the next section. Now that your computer powers on, it's time to install Windows. You're going to need a few things. First of all, you're going to need another computer. It has to be a PC, desktop or laptop to create a Windows installation USB. You're also going to need a USB flash drive with at least 8 GB of space, preferably a new one. You're also going to need a Windows product key. You don't have to buy your key directly from Microsoft. You can often find them cheaper online. Just Google Windows product key and you'll find plenty of options. Once purchased, you'll get a code made of letters and numbers to enter during the installation. Also, I highly recommend having a backup USB drive handy. I once spent 4 hours troubleshooting a failed Windows install only to realize that the USB drive was faulty. Here's how to make your installation media. On your computer, not the one you just built, another one, open a browser and search for Windows 11 installation media. Click Download Now on the Microsoft official site. Plug in your USB flash drive. Format the USB by right-clicking on the USB drive in the File Explorer. Select Format. Set the format to FAT32 and click Start. And then run the Windows installation media tool you just downloaded and choose your USB drive as a destination. Wait for it to complete and then safely eject the USB. Now I've created my Windows installation media. First I'm going to turn off the computer, holding the power button, and it's off. Then I'm going to plug in the USB to an empty USB port. Then I'm going to turn the computer back on. We have to wait a little bit because it might be a little bit slow. Great, it worked. Okay, now you just follow the installation guide. Choose all your settings. Put in your product code. We're just going to follow the Windows installation and go through all the questions and wait for the operating system to install. If nothing happens when you plug in the USB, just turn off the PC and move the USB to a different port on the motherboard and try again. Sometimes during installation, Windows will ask for a network driver. That's a software that allows your computer to connect to the internet. This can be annoying. I tried many times that the PC doesn't want to recognize the file, even after following several guides from the internet. Here's a little trick to bypass it and install the drivers later. When you're stuck on Let's connect you to a network screen, press Shift F10. This opens the command prompt. Then type in the following command exactly: OOBE/bypass NRO. Note that the backslash is usually typed with an Alt-GR plus the little crocodile mouse on your keyboard, but this depends on your region. This will reboot the PC and skip the network setup so you can finish the installation offline. Continue through the setup steps, and when you finally land on the Windows home screen, ta-da! You did it! Your PC is officially up and running with Windows. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this video helped you and that you feel less intimidated by computers now. Maybe you're ready to get started on your own, or maybe you just built your first computer. In that case, congratulations. Let us know in the comments if you have any computer advice for fellow softies and if you have any wishes for future computer tutorials. See you next time.